Let's get it on and popping. Am I muted? No, I'm not muted. This is great. What's up, everybody? Actually, it's not Happy Monday. It's raining cats and dogs in Baltimore right now. Over the weekend, I saw a rat the size of a calf muscle in Baltimore the other day. It was obnoxious. I don't know if this is a happy Monday necessarily. It's raining cats and dogs. You know, it's that I'm depressed. I need cornbread and chili type of weather out here. For those that don't know, if you don't know now, you know. That's how it's looking right now. But I'm happy that you came through today. I'm super excited for today's dialogue. I'm super excited for today's Koinonia with the kids session, you know what I'm saying? To share a space with a fellow theologian, a fellow black man, somebody that just, I don't know, somebody that just, when I say like I'm excited, somebody that I would just say is about not only speaking truth and to telling stories and just speaking on the importance of philanthropy, charity, and just, telling whiteness, hey, you suck. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my love language. I feel like that's important to just be able to share space with like-minded folk just like that. But before we get into all that, I'm going to think through my ancestors in the ocean. Now we became the new wave, and we're about to drown this system. Every time I go in, every time I go in, every time I go in, boy, I'm jamming. Every time I go in, every time I go in, every time I go in, boy, I'm jamming. You know that I'm a kid, you know that I'm a kid, you know that I'm a kid, boy, I'm jamming. You know that I'm a kid, you know that I'm a kid, you know that I'm a kid, boy, I'm jamming. Had to make sure that my camera was calibrated. Had to make sure everything was good. Somebody honked the horn outside. It was kind of rude and distracting, but that's besides the point. Welcome everybody to the Kid Casper podcast. I'm your gracious, beautiful, blessed, beloved, and black host, the kid that they call Casper. The KID in Kid Casper stands for that king of development. I'm that menace with the melanin. So reject me as I am as long as he is still relevant. If this is your first time tuning in today, you know what I'm saying? I am that quirky black kid that they call Casper. I am a Christian raptivist. Yes, rapper slash activist. Rapper slash activist. Let me repeat that one more time. Like, I love Jesus, and I'm like really super far from a pacifist. Like, the Lord is working on my life. I don't go by Mr. Lee with love on social media platforms, not because I am the most loving type. It's, hey, remember what you called to be. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I need Jesus. Try Jesus, not me. Like, I will lay hands on you and in prayer and maybe in the flesh. I don't know. Anyway, graphic designer, clothing apparel owner of ghostthreads.com. That's how we pay the bills around here. And before we, get into my guests this evening, this night, I guess it's technically afternoon where he's at. I'm not sure. This is a husband. This is a pastor. This is a theologian, a pro-black theologian. You know what I'm saying? A truth teller, a storyteller. I wasn't really sure personally. I'm a little irritated with this brother. I did my research. I am a little irritated with this brother because not last year. Actually, no, it was last playoffs when the Bucks won the NBA championship. My team, for those that know, I suffer from depression being a Knicks fan. My team ran into the good old Atlanta. He's clapping over here. My team ran into the good old Atlanta Hawks, you know what I'm saying, where Ice Tray, you know what I'm saying, decided to just, I don't know, kick us in. Just, I pray for my depression. Anyway, my guest this evening is the magnificent, the amazing, the melanated, you know what I'm saying, Mr. Garrison Hayes. How you doing today, sir?
It's getting cold in here. You feel me?
You ugly.
No, I'm well. Thank you for having me on. Shout out to Trae Young. Shout out to Atlanta Hawks one time. Shout out to the Knicks. Who would we be if we didn't have teams to beat up on like yours? So thank you.
I don't know if that's really. I don't know if that's really in the spirit. I didn't feel the fruit of the spirit in that slight, but it's okay. I'll let it slide. You know what I'm saying? I promise not to throw too much shade this evening. But how are you doing, black man? How is your Monday going? How's everything
It's
going on your side of the earth?
it's going well. I shared with you earlier that I actually got COVID for the very first time here in July of 2022. I've been, as you say, ducking and dodging for quite some time, and it finally caught up with me. So you might hear a little bit of that, but all in all, I'm doing well. I'm blessed.
Yeah, we don't. So if it sounds like he's going through puberty twice, and you don't hear like the
Right.
the amazing, yes, puberty twice. You know what I'm saying? Where you sounded like your boy Trey out here. You know what I'm saying? In case he sounds a little rough, just pray for him. You know, just pray for restoration and wholeness over this brother, because that I don't think people take it seriously enough. But this virus is a killer. You know what I'm saying? I'm just happy that even in this rediscovery of I would say this attack on your flesh, you know what I'm saying, you decided to still welcome yourself into my space. So, appreciate you still, showing up and everything like that. It means a lot, brother, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm thankful to be here. So thanks for sharing your space with me.
Of course. So, if you could do me a favor, for those that do not know you, if you've been like kind of living under a rock from like late 2019 to like now, essentially, if you could give an elevator's pitch to who Garrison Hayes is, can you do that for me today, sir?
Sure. So I am a husband and a friend and a brother. I believe that the power of the gospel is powerful enough to help us break down systems of oppression here in this time, that we don't have to wait until heaven to experience what God wants for us even now. And I think the gospel is powerful enough to help us to do that. I've been making content on TikTok. I started making TikTok content in 2021, actually in January 2021, which is the platform that has grown the most over that time. And my content really centers on anti-racism. The entire reason why I started a TikTok page is because I clicked hashtag anti-racist, and the top video on hashtag anti-racist or anti-racism, one of the two, was of a guy smiling into the camera. And he says, this is one anti-racist smiling at another anti-racist. And it bothered me. It bothered me because I'm like, that's not what anti-racism is. Like you don't just get to smile and determine that you are anti-racism or anti-racist because of the smile. And so my kind of thesis statement in so much of my anti-racism work is that our anti-racism is really only as powerful as the history that informs it. If your anti-racism is only rooted in niceties, it is not truly anti-racism. It
Say
is
that.
only anti-racism when it is tethered to, connected to the history that brings us to this moment. I'm always amazed when I interact with people who don't recognize the weight of the history that's bearing down on us in this very moment. And so much of my work is really an attempt to explain the past to help us better understand the present and hopefully build a better future. So that's who I am. That's what I do. That's what I'm about. And yeah, I think that answers I'm a believer. I think I may have mentioned that, Christian. I spent a few years as a pastor, and now I am no longer in the pastorate, but I do preach and speak relatively often. So that's me.
Gotcha. And first off, I'm gonna ask you this because I give the grace to ask every one of my guests this. When they come in this space, have you ever tuned into any of my episodes as far as content wise on my podcast, sir?
I have not. I've not had the opportunity to tune into I know you from Decon, from the deconstruction conference that we were both a part of. That's how I know your work, but I haven't seen any of your content.
Okay, cool. So that means you have no idea what super intense question I'm gonna ask next on this here podcast.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, here we
My
go.
next super intense question on the Kid Casper podcast is: if you had to pick a favorite Disney princess, what Disney princess would that be today, sir?
That's hard. I'm gonna go with the first one that came to mind, which is Jasmine. Mainly because the album slaps, the soundtrack, all the songs they hit, and I know that she was the first princess of color, I believe. I know, like, growing up, that was like a big deal. So I've always had it in my mind that she was great. But here's the truth. I'm not a big Disney princess movie kind of person. That's the truth. So, like, I'm a little handicapped on that question to begin with.
Oh, don't feel bad. Considering that, like, I have children, I haven't seen movies like Frozen, Moana, Frozen 1 or 2, and all these other songy movies. Don't feel bad. I mean, don't feel too bad. The spirit of condemnation ain't never gonna come for you over here, good sir. Everybody else might have something to say, but I mean, they can headbutt a knife. That's fine.
Yeah.
But that, I appreciate your honest answer. And I'm also happy you didn't say Tiana, because a lot of people say Tiana, and Tiana didn't even get to be black the whole movie, or majority, or like 70% of the movie. She
was a frog.
Yes, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
yeah.
My first black princess would probably be Brandy. That's just me. But yeah,
that's a good one.
Absolutely.
That's a good one, though. Absolutely. The one with Whitney Houston. Impossible.
Right.
I love that one.
Exactly.
That's the one.
Mm-hmm. So this will kind of let me know how much cooler you are than me. You know what I'm saying? You kind of got me 0-1 right now because, Knicks, Hawks, we're not really off to a good start. If you had to pick a starter 6 Pokemon set, you know what I'm saying? What starting 6 Pokemon are we rocking with today, sir?
Oh, wow. So here's the truth. I only got into Pokemon when the Pokemon Go app came out. That was when I got into it. And it's because
you're just that cool,
I was raised a good Christian.
You just that cool of a person. You just like Pokemon. What's that? Like, I don't know what Pokemon is. Like,
that was me. Also, I wanted to, but I was not allowed. as a good conservative Christian as a kid, that was the devil's work. And so I wasn't allowed to like pocket monsters. I wasn't allowed to collect the cards or to watch the show or anything like that. So I don't know anything about Pokemon other than like Charizard and Squirtle and Pikachu. I probably just maxed out on my Pokemon knowledge. So I give you a starting 3.
Wow,
that's about it.
You know what I also say, and so I'd like to give people a grace where I don't like to judge a book by its cover. I didn't want to just assume like, you know what, he might know a little something, but then I'm also like, you know what, black is misleading in many ways, not just age, but we are not a monolithic people. So what I'm saying, you might know a little something that I do know something about. You might know something that I know absolutely nothing about. You know what I'm saying? So like, I can't say you failed the test. We're 1-1 right now, but that's okay. You know what I'm saying? We'll take that.
You have to share yours. You have to share yours for us to be 1-1.
Okay, so mine would be Magby. It's probably like the only Pokemon that like that resembles a black child probably, but it doesn't look like a stereotype. Flygon, which is like this like dragon Pokemon. Next would be Espeon, which is one of the Eevee evolutions. Let's see. I would have to go with Pikachu for a classic. You know what I'm saying? Gotta go with Charmander because I feel like Charmander was abandoned as a child. I feel like he just needs a hug from like Maya Angelou or something like that. I don't know if I'm that type of Pokemon trainer, but that'd be interesting. And for my 6, it kind of differentiates, honestly. If I want to be overkill, I probably have to be Mew because I think Mew was the one Pokemon that was the closest to Jesus. So I think we're gonna go with Mew today. Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah. I'm uncool like your mother's brother. So I don't stopped trying to be cool since 94. So that's just how it is essentially.
Good.
But anyway, my brother, one of the reasons that I wanted to not only have you in this space, one, because I just wanted to be able to have a dialogue with you, break bread with people I baked it with in different spaces. Though we didn't share a breakout room, we've occupied chairs in a similar space before. And my goal at the end of the day is taking the time and effort into humanizing a content creator, because when you're not creating content, you're still a human at the end of the day. You're still a man. You're still a brother to some people. You're a son to some people. You're a husband to some people. And just being able to give you the space for you to be able to provide your story to some degree. So if you could take me back as far as you can remember, and it could be your coming to Christ story. It could just be, I don't know, this is only the first memory I got. If you could take me as far back as you can remember to the developing stages of a young Garrison, could you do that for me today, please, sir?
Wow, that's a deep question. If I were to go all the way back, I can. I mean, I remember this is the thing that comes to my mind, is like my dad waking me and my mom, and eventually one day when my brother was born and old enough, waking us all up in the morning for prayer. He would do this literally 5 day, Monday through Friday, every single morning. He'd wake us up anywhere between 4:45, 5:15. He'd get us up in the morning, bring us all together, pray over us before he left the house to go off for work. And so that's one of those, that's one of my earliest and kind of most seared memories, probably in part because it was something that was just so consistent from such a young age. It's just been a part of, it was a part of my life for so long. And so I have memories of that. I can remember going into my parents' room, and I had my little spot that I would always kind of kneel at and while he was praying and all that. And so that's one of my earliest memories. And I think it was like really important, and it is incredibly important for me today, and I'll share why. But it was really important for me growing up, because it was kind of like every day, no matter what, I know I'm going to talk to God, and I'm going to talk to God in partnership with my dad, and so if anyone ever asked me, like, have you prayed today? Right? Like, yes, right? Like, yes, for sure, every single day. And it's something that even after I left home, went off to college, it was something that was really important to me to make sure that I kind of had a conversation with God every single day. I failed for sure. There were days where I didn't, days where I woke up and I rushed to class, or I did something else and it wasn't on my mind. I was too concerned about other things. But there's always something kind of in the back of your mind, right? Like there's always this habit that's been like kind of baked into you for 18, 19, whatever, 16, however many years. It's just been kind of baked in for so long. And so even today, like I'm not a father yet, but I lost my dad to COVID a little bit less than a year ago in September of last year. And as I've been thinking so much about him and his legacy and who he's been, who he was for me, and I guess still is in many ways for me, that is one of the most valuable memories I have, is like that my dad didn't miss a day with us, right? He was there, and really, holding his family up. And it's just a powerful example for me. It's something that I would want to continue, right? The next generation of that exact kind of thing. And so anyway, that's the memory that comes to mind, because it is really one of my earliest memories and one of my most kind of persistent memories throughout my childhood.
Yeah, first off, I'd like to say my condolences to losing your father. I lost one of my brothers week of Christmas, literally week of Christmas to COVID. So, I'm praying for your heart through that, man. That's got to be hard. I'm also, I say that to say I'm also happy to hear, like, it does my heart good to hear that, your dad's legacy, and not only in just how he interacted with you, with your siblings growing up, with your mom, it's left such an impression on you that you can be able to point to, this is sad. At the same time, just recognize that I guess like the mark he left on you, you know what I'm saying? I think that's beautiful, you know what I'm saying? And how you're able to recognize, despite this happening, this was always something good that I was always cherishing. So I just, I appreciate you sharing that, brother. That's beautiful for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I've said this before, but it's like the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my life. It's to this day, it's an incredibly painful part of my lived experience, is having lost the person that you admire and love and do so many things to like kind of impress, right? Like so much of, as a man, especially as a black man, so much of my identity is connected to my father and connected to, my relationship with him. And just trying to be kind of a man that makes him proud as my dad, right? And so because of that connection, I didn't ever take the time to really process that and process like how important he was as like the object to which I was aiming, right? Like when I made this career decision, or I made this, life decision, somewhere in my thought process, somewhere in my decision making processes, somewhere on the decision tree is like, what will your dad think of this? And I see that as a positive thing because my dad was a man of integrity, a person who, had a powerful presence, was always committed to the church. And so many of the decisions I've made throughout my life have been in some ways calibrated to say like, okay, like what will my dad, who I really respect and admire, what would he think about this decision? And so again, extremely painful to lose that person. And at the same time, I can still hold on to that, right? Like I can still hold on to that, like, what would my father have said about this, or how would my father have counseled me in this moment? What decision would he have made in this instance? And it's been a powerful guide over the last year where I felt at times adrift and completely untethered to that anchor that my father has been in my life. And at the same time, his legacy, his memory, the things he told me over the years, they come back to my mind, and they resonate and ring in my heart in some of the most important and powerful moments. And so I'm eternally grateful for my dad. And exactly as you say, like to be able to kind of hold on to that as a positive thing. It's taken some time to get to this place where I can see any positive. I can look back and have fond memories or laugh at things that he did, that were goofy or crazy or that I disagree with. It's literally taken up until probably the last month for me to get to that place. But I am eternally grateful for the impact that my dad had on my life. And so I smile and I thank God for that.
That's what's up. One thing that I'm curious about, especially when we're talking about your development and things that were instilled in you in your younger days in your development. You speak very just for me, like observing your content and like consuming your content, you speak very not so much highly, but you really amplify the importance of like philanthropy. We talk about just being a giving people, charity, you know what I'm saying? If we're talking about the old messianic belief, the old Jewish like obligation that we were to have when we're talking about tzedakah, in America, in this country, you know what I'm saying, American Christianity, that's not exactly like something that, it's like it almost has to be taught because it's not really being stewarded in the pulpit. Was your dad like a huge proponent as far as instilling the importance of philanthropy and to be a giving people when we're talking about being Christ-like?
It's an interesting question, and yeah, he actually really was into that. Not only from like a tithing perspective, right? Like that's always very important for us Christians. Make sure you're giving your tithe and your offering and all of that. And so he was really into that, and I value that, especially having served as a pastor for a time where my salary was not directly connected to the tithe, but the overall perpetuation of the institution of the church was directly connected to the tithe. And so, yes, he really was. But they talk about time, talent, and treasure. And treasure is like one part of it, right? Like one part of stewardship and your ability to give. But that other element of giving your time and giving your talents, also incredibly important and vital, I think, to the work of both justice, but also to the work of the church. Here, I'll grab it. I keep this here with me, in part as a reminder of my father, and to your point about giving. This is my dad's Atlanta Corrections badge. This belonged to him. He was a huge advocate for the imprisoned population. He would spend almost every single weekend with this badge around his neck at the Atlanta Detention Center, a correctional facility, where he would minister to incarcerated individuals, where he would spend time with what the Bible would identify as the least of these in society, young men who believe stories about themselves, who've been told stories about who they are and the value that they have in society. He would go in there and he would work to correct those narratives. He would work to pray with and minister to, but also be in the courtroom to advocate for these young men, and young and old men, but he would be in there to minister to them. And so I keep this as a reminder of the work that he was committed to doing for my entire life. My dad was never incarcerated, but I have an unusual number of memories being at a correctional facility with my father, precisely because of his commitment to, as you say, it's philanthropy. How I would almost reframe that is a willingness to give of himself. We're certainly not wealthy people, but he would give his time, he would give his talent, and he would indeed give his treasure. But this is that kind of reminder of the amount of time and the amount of commitment he had to that work. And I'm incredibly proud of him for it. I keep it around for a reason.
And especially like when people, I think the misconception that a lot of people don't recognize what tithes means. Like, I think we push so heavy on like the treasures piece, but really like tithe, tenth essentially. It could be a tenth of your time, a tenth of your wages. It could be a tenth of your talents, even a tenth of like your efforts. You know what I'm saying? God's asking, give me your 10%. I'll show you the 90. You know what I'm saying? And I think in a lot of ways that, because we only focus on the dollar amount that we can invest in somebody's life, that it's very easy because we throw money at it, that the heart and the love that we're supposed to operate in as far as the spirit goes can be lost in the mix. And it sounds like just from like you, and I saw it like on your face, as like your face like lit up like a Christmas tree essentially, how like you pretty much spoke as which that it's like, what, even if I don't got money to give, like what the word and the encouragement and advice I could even give to these men, young or old, are priceless, and it's worth more than $1 could ever go. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's awesome for sure.
No, that's exactly right. Brian Stevenson, he's the author of the book Just Mercy. He talks a great deal about proximity and how, our world would be different if we found ourselves in closer proximity to each other, and especially to those whose society is marginalized. And exactly what you're talking about, I think, I think one of the big mistakes of the summer of 2020 was for people to think that they could have gotten away with being pro-Black or for Black Lives Matter because they gave some money to an organization, right?
Come on now, man.
Like, I think what would have been far more powerful is if people became more proximate, especially those non-Black people who have existed in spaces and in places where Black people have not been allowed, whether explicitly or implicitly. If those people had decided, instead of just giving some money to an organization to ease as a balm for their conscience, right? If instead they decided, I'm going to become more proximate, I'm actually going to open doors. I'm going to be not only an ally, but a sponsor for this community that have experienced a historic and contemporary wrong, as opposed to like, let me just kind of throw some money at it. I think we would have been in a much better place. In fact, I think what happened in 2020, because we were able to externalize so much of the problem and say, oh, it's them over there, and maybe we can give some money to this thing over here. Because the people were able to externalize it so greatly, they never had to come to grips with the ways in which history is bearing down on this moment and almost predicting. If you look back in history, it almost predicts what happened in 2021 with the anti-CRT and the anti-woke bills that have been passed in last year and in this year, which are a direct response to a groundswell of people who are interested in pushing forward this Black Lives Matter, pro-Black movement, racial justice movement. You see, just like immediately after that, You see people talking about being anti-woke and anti-CRT, and they're teaching our kids to hate themselves and all these things. And I think a lot of that has to do with the externalization. We never really took time to become proximate to this issue. Even as we were marching in the streets, it was almost a superficial demonstration. And that's the thing. I was out there and I'm all for it. But we didn't have the necessary conversations to describe the ways in which this stuff is not going to be solved by simply going out and raising a fist in the streets. This is like really personal, community, institutional work, which means that you have to get into the details. You have to get proximate to the voices of the people who are most marginalized, and really spend some time there. And of course, you got to learn your history. And so I think those two things are really important to me. And I think you're totally right that you don't have to necessarily have a ton of money, but you can still make a difference. And part of making that difference is becoming proximate to people.
There's something that you said there. I think I don't think people understand the gravity of that when we're talking about how we never necessarily had to, I would say, confront some of these difficult conversations, or better yet, it's the equivalent to like that drawer you got in your house. And I know you got this drawer. You might have that. You might, I don't know. But I'm just gonna assume real quick. If I make an ass out of myself, I do apologize. Everybody got this drawer in their house where they stuff everything into. And the problem is that when it's time to clean up house and it's time for you to arrange and kind of get your ducks in a row, part of opening that drawer is you gotta take the things out of it. I think to a lot of ways, this generation of white America, and then even this generation of Black America, we have never been able to fully unpack and take in inventory and process and assess the very things that we are carrying around a lot in some ways. And we don't recognize the gravity that these things impact us. Why do you think, in your opinion, why there is such a resistance to pretty much peel back the veil? You know what I'm saying? Open that door in that room that ain't clean, but everybody else has not seen in your house. Why does it seem like the resistance to take an inventory to everything that has happened to not only us as a people, but the necessary conversation that needs to happen? Why is the resistance so strong to have that conversation opposed to the ease to avoid it?
Yeah, I think there are at least a couple of answers to this question. It's an important question, but it's also a question that if you give a simple, easy answer to this question, you've missed some part of it. I think it's unfair for us to pretend that this is some easy thing. All right, so
take it. Look here, man. Context is my favorite color, and nuance is my niche. Take your time, dog. You got time for sure.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk about human nature first. Then, our desire to avoid pain, our desire to avoid discomfort. That is natural to who we are as a survival mechanism. Whether you are an evolutionist or a creationist, both of those worldviews make space for there to be things within us that help us to survive, to help us to maintain and perpetuate and continue. And one of those things is to avoid pain, is to avoid things that are uncomfortable, because things that are comfortable in the right environment at the right temperature all the time, those things live the longest, okay? And so that's in us. That's a part of who we are as human beings. So let's start on that level. If we wanted to kind of bring it on down, many more layers deep to where we are as Americans, I think America has an obsession with a narrative, with a certain kind of story about itself. And that story serves many different utilities. I think, it gives us a certain amount of pride every 4th of July, and allows us to no matter if you Black, white, no matter what, you probably gonna root for the American in the Olympics. Like it just gives us a certain pride. And I think that story is a part of it. But I also think it serves kind of a different purpose, which is this almost presumed innocence that, hey, we're always improving. Hey, we're always going in the right direction. Even if we got it wrong then, well, we got it right eventually. And the story of race and racism in America is not a story of innocence and then we came to our senses and so we made some adjustments. This story is actually one of intentional, callous, calibrated, calculated discrimination, bigotry, and marginalization. And we have to really come to grips with that story, because that story actually runs counter to the story that we are told about our country, where we are becoming a more perfect union. I'll say this. I think there is kind of another facet here. Like, I don't, without getting, without going into some pseudoscience here, I think within the larger conversation of race, I think white supremacists have done a really good job, if I can even frame it that way, in creating like rooms in the white psyche that they can fill with whatever fits the agenda of the moment. And what I mean by that is, like, we know that Black people aren't lazy, right? But that's what enslavers would essentially perpetuate, is that, oh, Black people are lazy. They have to be whipped and beaten and all of that in order to be kept in line. It's almost like a reverse justification. It's like they're essentially justifying their bigotry. They're justifying their brutishness toward the Black community, toward enslaved individuals, by creating this narrative about who they are. And then, so that kind of room is already created in the white psyche. And then after emancipation, there are all of these laws around loitering and around people being late, Black people being lazy. You got to have a job, otherwise you can be incarcerated, which means you can be enslaved again, right? So there's a room created, and then as it's convenient, they can fill that room with whatever idea is necessary to continue the perpetuation of the disenfranchisement of African American people. I'll bring that to today. I think these rooms like exist, that like Black people are lazy, of course. Black people are violent. Black people just want to live off the state. Like all of these kind of things, these rooms exist. Black people shouldn't be trusted. Like these are ideas that have been in the American psyche for a very, very long time. And you get all the way to 2021 or 2022, and what do you see? Welfare, statements from conservative politicians that make very similar statements. Statistics be doggone, be forgotten. So I think I'll wrap this point up by saying this. I think we have some real work to do in understanding our history, but I also think we have some real work to do in kind of unwinding all of the ways in which we've been led to believe that Black and brown people are some stereotype. All of the stereotypes that exist out there, the negative stereotypes that exist, we really have to do the work to kind of reverse engineer those and to ask ourselves the question, why do we believe these things about this incredibly diverse? I mean, you said it earlier, Black people are not a monolith. So why do we believe monolithic things about this community? And the same thing applies for our Latin brothers and sisters, Asian brothers and sisters, and so forth and so on. Like we really got to ask these critical questions about the ways in which we've been socialized to view entire groups of people and the things that we believe about them. And I say we because it's not just white people who believe anti-Black things about Black folks, right? Like it's not just like white people who believe anti-Latin things about our Spanish-speaking family. And so we have to really do the work of reverse engineering, working through all the ways in which we believe these negative things about entire groups. I think that's why people are so hesitant to get on board with this stuff and to do the work. It's because they can always get off. There's always an off ramp. And the off ramp is often some stereotype, some false belief, some false narrative about a community. Hey, I said a lot. I'm sorry.
No. You're good. I appreciate you. Look, I appreciate you unpacking that. That is a lot, man. And I think like one thing that I think when we're talking about this is not that simple. And I think people need to be able to take the time to not only check all the ingredients that took into making this dish, but then be able to fully digest what all that comes with it. So you're more than fine, my brother. One thing I was curious about, because how you actually came up on my radar was, it was after I call it the attack of powdered mayonnaise. Rebuke me if you got a problem with it. That's fine. That's your prerogative. The attack of powdered mayonnaise on the Capitol, January 6th. You spoke. I didn't even know this until you tweeted this. It was you tweeted about I think there was a cross erected next to a gallows, and like, I don't know why, but like when I read that, I felt this trembling feeling, not only in my spirit and in my flesh. If I remember correctly, just from you and me talking, you said that you just recently moved to where you are now. Were you actually in DC while this was happening by chance?
Yeah. So I lived really close to
Okay,
the
so first
Capitol.
off, before you continue, I'm happy you here. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy you survived, because that's that. Oh my God, good Lord, like Jesus. All right, but continue.
Yeah, no, it's insane. It's insane. It was crazy. So I lived really close to the Capitol at the time. I was just like a few miles away, like a very short bike ride away. And I decided I wanted to go down there and see it for myself. But I honestly did not think that it was anything more than a traditional Trump rally, right? Like a group of people, like living in DC during the Trump years, or in the DC area during the Trump years, meant that people would come, MAGA folks would come in like busloads, like all the time. People would come through all the time to like just hang out. I don't know, walk the mall. I don't know, see Trump, take a picture in front of the White House. And so this was obviously bigger than that, but I didn't think that it would have been as crazy as it was. But I did want to go down to see. And so there's a little bit of a contradiction there. On the one hand, I'm like, I kind of want to go see this. On the other hand, I didn't think it would be as crazy as it was.
You just ignored that your mom's voice in your head, where it's like you knew there was some bad stuff going on, and you still was just like, let me.
And I still went. I still went. It's crazy. I get there, in the tweet that you're referring to, I talk about how they were singing praise and worship songs, like Christian contemporary heart of worship type songs.
That part. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Next to the gallows, which is just a crazy juxtaposition. It's insane. Even now, it's still like, how could they have been in proximity and thought that they were singing to the same Jesus that I so. All in all, it was crazy. You know, one of the things that doesn't show up is like how chaotic it was down there. I actually happened to have gone. I went to DC in the summer of 2020 to demonstrate and protest.
Oh,
and I saw the way.
I literally, me too. And I was probably like 50. I just left 15 minutes before the tear gas came. Oh,
wait, we were there the same.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
that's my exact same story. I was literally about to say that.
Mm-hmm. So to see I would say the resistance from that to come on in, guys. Oh my God. Like
it's crazy. Okay. So you were there that day. I was there that day too. And there was a curfew, which is why I left. There was a curfew at like 6 o'clock, which during the summer is like, it's so bright. It's like daytime. It's like for sure daytime.
Absolutely.
So I was leaving around 5:45, whatever it was, however long it was before he walked out there and pepper bombed people. But like you saw those trucks, they were like huge military trucks, these people with like really long, big guns, and they're like all around during the summer of 2020 protests. Mm-hmm. And then you also would know, because you're from the area, you would know that parking in DC is nuts. Like they really will ticket you in like 5 minutes if you're in the wrong spot, right? Like they are very, very, very strict about parking. I remember when we drove in for the January 6th thing, like just to kind of get a lay of the land, see what was going on down there. People were parked in the middle of the street. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
I'm not making it. They were parked in the middle of the street. This is so crazy in DC. Like it's almost unfathomable to think that someone would break traffic laws so egregiously in DC, where they will ticket you, they will boot your car, they will tow your car in a heartbeat. Like DC does not play with that stuff. And so I knew when we got there, and I'm looking around at people parked in the middle of the street, parked like just crazy everywhere. People are driving in the wrong direction on streets. It was pandemonium down there. It was nuts. I knew something crazy was going on. But we stayed. We walked around a bit, and sure enough, people really were doing and saying some insane things there. And so we know how that went, right? Like, we've been watching the January 6th, hearings, so we know that things were crazy. We know that there was a ton going on behind the scenes. But to be there in person, to hear folks say like, "Oh, it was just a group of peaceful protesters and a small group of rowdy folks," that was not the environment. And I was there. That was not the environment.
I think the most disheartening thing about that is having to stomach and recognize that it was unbelievable and believable, meaning like, I can't believe the church would do this. At the same time, I can totally believe that the American church would do this. The heartbreaking part about it was, I've only been, so my story is not like yours. I didn't get saved till I was 19. I was going to hell on a scholarship. You know what I'm saying? That's just piece that for a second. So like, for me, when I come to know the way, this way of being a Nasrawi, you know what I'm saying, to be a person, to be about the good news, and then to see on public display to be a symbol of hatred, you know what I'm saying? It brought sadness to my eyes, because I sat there and I thought to myself, I was like, our public witness look like trash? And then I also had to stomach and recognize our public witness been looking like trash. You know what I'm saying? And I know that just from the resistance that I received from even the idea of going to a Black Lives Matter protest, whether it was in DC or anywhere, and then I would say like the spirit of the scapegoat of advocating for these people to participate in the same civil liberties I have, and to, sharing my voice. However, it's in favor of the oppressive, bigoted spirit that is inhabited. I mean, not just in 45's term, but like literally built the buildings out there. You know what I'm saying? It was unfortunate. It was unfortunate to see the church to be once again behind the 8 ball when it came to, I would say, like, big issues like this.
Yeah, man, it really is. It is disappointing. And at the same time, I have to admit that, it's hard for me to lay this at the feet of the entire church. There is a specific faction of the American church who I would say is responsible for this. And again, I think we are all, family in Jesus Christ. And yet it's important for us to acknowledge that there is, in the Old Testament, they say there's an Achan in the camp, right? There is a group of people, there are a group of people who are incredibly destructive because of Christian nationalism. And a lot of times that falls along lines that look like whiteness and, white evangelicals specifically, as they say. This isn't to say that they're all so far gone. This isn't to paint with too broad of a brush, but it is to say that we have some real questions. We have some real things that we need to work through with regard to the ways in which white people are being discipled into republicanism, into Christian nationalism, and into white supremacy. We got to ask these questions, and we have to deal with this. And it requires us to call it out by name. I can't say the church. That's too broad, because that includes Alfred Street Baptist Church in Alexandria, Virginia, or, Otis Moss's church in Chicago, Trinity, or it includes too many churches for me to say Christians are responsible for this. There are specific churches, however, I could name those as well, that are responsible for this kind of thinking and have been incredibly instrumental in advancing this kind of thinking. And it's problematic. We have to work through this. We need to talk about this explicitly, and we need some reconciliation here.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, it's unfortunate for sure. But man, we could unfortunately and fortunately we could talk about this for hours, I imagine. So but I know you as a busy man, you know what I'm saying, Man's first ministry is his family, and I know you gotta go. Could you humor me for some quick hitters, my brother? Some either
Let's
ors.
do some quick hitters.
Quick hitters basically is like I ask you either ors. They're not really super deep questions. I only judge you a lot and a little bit depending on your answers. I mean, we're all, like I said, we're already not really good off to a good start because you're a Hawks fan. So it's just, I'm sorry. I used to love y'all when y'all had Joe Johnson, but then y'all pimp slapped me in the playoffs, and I just you had to do Derrick Rose like that. It's okay. But are you ready to humor me for some quick hitters, my brother? You think
Let's
you can do
do
that
it
for me? All right.
Let's do it.
First quick hitter, Skittles or Starburst?
You know they just said Skittles like give you brain damage.
Wow. All right.
Did you see that? There's a lawsuit to say it's not fit for human consumption. Look it up. Look it up. Don't eat Skittles. It's bad for you. Truly. Starbursts are not they're probably not good for you, but I'm picking those over Skittles.
Oh my God. Okay. So one of my mentors is like, we'll talk about this afterwards. Oh my gosh. That is, wow. All right. So, good Lord. All right. Maybe that is a theological question. Sweet baby Jesus. Sweet brown skinned Middle Eastern baby Jesus. Oh my gosh. All right. We talk about chicken now. Forget candy. If there's a lawsuit about chicken, I give up as a black man. Flats or drums? What we rocking with?
I'm vegetarian.
You're a vegetarian. Oh my God.
I'm vegetarian, baby. Shout out. Shout out plant-based, baby.
What is wrong? What is going on around here? This is the worst Monday ever. Oh, sweet baby Jesus. Oh my God. Okay, so if you had to pick like a baked cauliflower that resembles chicken, if you
know what I picked? I picked the Impossible Nuggets. Y'all probably heard it. You probably heard of the Impossible
is an Impossible
Burger.
Nugget?
But they have Impossible Nuggets and they're delicious. They're so good.
You're making me hot, yo. Look, guys. Okay, all right. So let's not trust his answers to the fullest degree. He was just diagnosed with COVID, and you know it robs you of your taste. So you really can't trust what he has to say. I mean, who knows how long he's been a vegetarian? I don't know.
I've been a vegetarian my whole life. I've never eaten meat in my life ever.
Oh, that's you know they ate meat in the Bible, right? But anyway,
They did. No shade, no hate. That's just me.
You probably saw Paul had a unibrow. And you was like, he probably got that from eating ribs. I don't want nothing to do with that. That's ridiculous. That's funny. We're talking about music now. Missy Elliott or Janet Jackson?
Ooh, Missy.
Okay. Queen Latifah or Eve?
But I want to say Queen Latifah for living single, Eve for music, to be honest with you.
Okay, that's fine. I feel like I know what your answer might be, but I gotta try it out. Pharrell or Kanye? What you got for me, dog?
It's gonna be Kanye for me, though I have a great deal of respect. And if you'd ask almost anyone else versus Pharrell, I would have picked Pharrell. But it's Kanye for me. Got a soft spot for that guy. I don't know why. I can't tell you. Take this out of the recording. They will cancel me.
As long as you know slavery wasn't a choice. That's all I'm concerned
It was
about.
indeed not a choice, okay? It wasn't a choice. And we should still call it Black History Month instead of Black Future Month, because that doesn't make any sense when they're trying to get rid of our history in schools. But still Kanye.
Yeah, he's like that cousin he's like that knucklehead friend that you try to talk up to the pretty girl. It's like, look, don't screw this up. Don't screw this up.
Yeah.
Just, good God. You are constructing a concert. Opener, who's opening? Mid, following up, closing. Who's performing at this concert?
Ooh, oh my goodness, this is hard. Okay. Opening. Oh my goodness, this is so hard.
And it could be any genre, bro. You could pick polka music.
That's the thing. I need you to tell me a genre.
Any genre. Bro, you could pick polka music. I ain't got nothing to say to you. You know what I'm saying? You already broke my heart 3 times on this show. It's okay.
Okay. So we're gonna open with, oh my goodness, this is so hard. Let's be interesting here and do, oh gosh. I can't.
What's more
I can't
interesting than
choose.
Impossible Nuggets? I don't know what's more interesting than Impossible Nuggets, dog. I don't.
Okay, so since we already had him, we're gonna open with Kanye West. All right, and he's gonna get the crowd. The crowd's gonna go crazy. All right, because he can perform, and he's gonna have an amazing time. It's gonna be an all male concert. The main act, or the one in the middle, will be Kendrick Lamar. It's gonna be insane, absolutely insane. It's gonna be crazy, bananas out here in these streets. And then the closing act is going to be PJ Morton, because he's gonna bring it home. And we're gonna we'll end, you know what I'm saying, in love. We'll end like thinking about the buying back the block. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's gonna be great. So those are the three. It's gonna be Kanye, it's gonna be Kendrick, and then it'll be PJ Morton.
All right. You are at dinner, 5 guests plus your wife, because y'all are one. You know what I'm saying? So you, your wife, 5 other guests, dead or alive. Who you having dinner with?
All right. W.E.B. Du Bois, James Baldwin for sure, Audre Lorde. Now this gets hard. I'm gonna do 2 contemporary people, for better or for worse. Oprah Winfrey and Barack Obama.
Oh man, Oprah. I got some questions for Oprah, unfortunately, and fortunately, and Barack too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had to throw in there for better or for worse part, just to say, like,
I appreciate you prefacing it.
I admire both of them for many reasons, and they're not perfect.
Yeah, it's just anyway. Oh, also, what y'all eating for dinner? I know you a vegetarian, but I gotta ask, what you eating for dinner at this?
That's a good question. Let's have some soul food. We're gonna have some cornbread, collard greens.
You can't even have the good. Peas. You can't even have the good collard greens because you can't put no ham.
Don't sleep. Hey, don't sleep on my collard greens. I'm telling you right now, my joints hit. Okay, my collard greens hit, and my grandmother's collard greens hit. No meat. And so we'll have cornbread, collard greens. We'll have mashed potatoes. We'll have some yams. Very, very black meal. We'll have mac and cheese. Like, it's basically Thanksgiving and in the South, and so that's what we're having for dinner.
Gotcha. And I'm just
everybody's taking a nap afterward.
Gotcha. And I gotta ask, because I don't know, and maybe this is a vegetarian thing, and like a part of me for just being abrupt, but like, your skin is immaculate. What is your skincare routine? Good God, is it just because you don't eat meat? Like, just
being vegetarian.
Being vegetarian. Ugly. I can't stand
being vegetarian and drinking water.
I know that's right. Drink water, mind your business. You know what I'm saying? And you a beautiful, beautiful man, inside and out. Minus the hawks and the. I think I can reconcile with vegetarian. You know what I'm saying? But I definitely. I was like, ooh, he twisted his ankle. Yes, they ain't going to the finals. That's terrible. I know. But yeah, man. And my last and final question on the Kid Casper podcast is: if you had to see a guest come up on here and occupy the space with me, who would they be? But your answer got to be somebody you can help get on here, essentially.
All right. Let's say Jamar Tisby. Now, how much help I can be is we'll see, but I think he'd be great for your show.
Jamar Tisby. You got 2 other people, because this is season 3. You got 2 other suggestions possibly you can get up on here?
All right, let's think whoever. Kat Armis is an author and Latina who is incredible, phenomenal writer, incredible thinker. And so I know this is for the black folks. That's why I had to throw in the Latina part. I know it's for the black folks, but her work is outstanding, and she's phenomenal on issues of justice and helping us think about. She wrote this book called Abuelita Faith. Anyway, check it out. I think she'd be great as well. And then let me think of a third. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. Okay. What about Dara Star Tucker? She's a content creator. You're familiar with her. She was part of Decon as well.
I want to talk to that magnificent woman so bad. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she's outstanding.
Yes, I would even like need to talk. I would literally just sit here and just be like, you know what? This is your podcast. I'll just go ahead.
Yeah,
and I have
listen.
no problem with it. The woman is brilliant. You know what I'm saying?
She's
dope.
incredible. I think she'd be great in this space.
Absolutely. So first off, man, I said it before. I'm gonna say it again. Thank you for accepting my invitation, dog. This was dope. You're welcome back here anytime. You know what I'm saying? This is a revolving door. If you have any future projects, campaigns, causes that you would want to kind of shine a light on, amplify, bring to the forefront for anybody that's going to watch this, listen to this in the future going forward, screen is yours. What you got for us? What you got working for us?
Well, I just ask everyone to find me on social. It's probably easiest to find me on Instagram at Garrison H. That's my handle, at Garrison H. I think if you search Garrison Hayes, that's my full name, typically I come up. And subscribe to my Substack. That's my newsletter. It's an occasional newsletter where I send out thoughts, my writing on different issues, things that are kind of happening in the moment. That's the best way for me to reach you. And so if you care about hearing what I have to say, subscribe to my Substack, and you can find that at the link in my bio on all social media platforms. Of course, Kid Casper, thank you very much for having me on your show and sharing your platform with me.
Of course, man. This is dope, man. I like I said, you welcome back here anytime, just in case we need to get up on here. Like I said, my doctrine is like kind of making white people upset. So if you want to join me and get in some good trouble, I ain't got no issue with
trouble.
that. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for tuning in today. This was dope. This was a great conversation. Always remember, you are beautiful, blessed, and beloved. Raisins still don't go on potato salad. In case people forgot, raisins don't go on potato salad. Question, Brother Garrison, before you go, because I know you're a vegetarian, but I don't want to assume. Would you ever put mayonnaise on peas by chance?
On peas?
Yes.
No, I would not. I didn't even know you were gonna. That's so outrageous. I didn't even know you were gonna ask that. That's crazy. It caught me off guard. No, who would do that?
Okay. How about avocados and condensed milk? Would you rock with that at all, by chance?
What? No, that's crazy. This is crazy talk. What are we talking about here? Are they doing that these days?
Some of them are doing it these days.
They are in crisis.
It is violence. I will fill you in after we get off the air. Raisins don't go